Hi, welcome back to My High Plains Life. This is episode 7, and I'm your host, Danielle. I can be found on Ravelry as Danny Girl Colorado and on Instagram as Danny Girl Colorado also. Let's skip ahead to motorcycling on the road. I was finally able to get the bike out this weekend. I went with some friends and my husband out on Sunday. We did a little out and back, about 130 miles total. Not too far, short trip. We went out, had an early lunch, and then came back. And we got caught in a little downpour on the way home. And this brings me to my point. Always take your rain gear when riding in Colorado. Luckily I had mine in my saddlebags, because what else are saddlebags for? It's like, I have my own, but my husband loves his saddlebags too, and I call him his man purse, because that's what it really is. I mean, it holds your keys, your phone, your wallet. Man purse. Rain gear. And so we pulled over and stopped under an awning to get out of the worst of the downpour and put on my rain gear. And I did need it. I actually needed it about 5 minutes before I put it on. Needed it, and for a little bit, after we waited there for a while for the rain to slow down, and then we continued on. Only about half of our ride back had wet roads or still a little bit of rain, and then it started getting steamy because I have that plastic rain suit with the high-vis yellow. Oh yeah. And it was not good. I just felt like I was steaming alive, and apparently so did my pants. I melted my plastic rain pants to my pipes. Oops. So I've got to get that cleaned up. I couldn't do it when my pipes were hot, obviously. Burn yourself. So today when they're cooled down, I'll go out and try and clean some of the burnt plastic off them and shine up my chrome. Yay. But it was fun. We had a good time, a good ride. I got some confidence back. This has been my first real ride this summer. I haven't gone out much. And that has partly to do with depression. Okay, a lot to do with depression. And just getting up the energy to go ride. Because you have to be there. You have to be in the moment, paying attention when you're riding. You can't be distracted. That's how accidents happen. So, and I was actually debating about crying off on Sunday, and I'm glad I didn't, because once I was there and on my bike and on the road, I had a lot of fun. And depression doesn't mean you're not ever happy. It just means, for me at least, it's really hard to overcome the inertia of doing nothing. And that sense of I can never pronounce it. And yes, I'm talking about my depression. I decided, for a long time, I kept it a secret because it's one of those diseases that you can't see. So people think, oh, well, I can't see it, so it's not real. And they, at least I feel, they have a tendency to think less of people with diseases that are invisible. Lupus, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome. Those, things that can't be seen from the outside. And I kept it a secret. It's still hard to talk about but I'm going to do it. And I would like to point out too that another podcast I watched, Tea House Knits, which is also fairly new, and she's really sweet and interesting, I think. I enjoy her little educational blurbs on tea every time, not just the knitting. And she talked about depression too, and sent kudos out to Danny of Little Bobbin's podcast for discussing it. And talked about how she had battled with depression also, particularly postpartum depression, but also just, something she'd struggled with since her teens, and about how it is hard to talk about it, and it shouldn't be. We should be more open about it, and talk about it just like any other illness, and treatment, and what you would normally share with friends and family. So obviously wouldn't share all my medical details with everybody, but I'm going to talk about it. Not all the time, but it happens to be a topic that's out there right now, and so I felt like I should address it. Okay, so enough of that. Besides on the road, I have a lot to talk about on the needles. Yay! Well, not so much a lot to talk about as one big finished object. Yay! My summer crossover top is done. I have not washed and blocked it yet, but it is all seamed. The ends are woven in, and I have tried it on. And it is big, like 3 inches wide. Too big. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. I can't bitch because it was a free pattern, but I'm going to bitch anyway. Sorry. What is the point of giving a gauge swatch if the pattern doesn't match the measurements? So I followed everybody else's comments on their project pages, did a smaller size. It's still too big. But it doesn't look that bad. I'm not going to rip it out. I'm still happy with it. It's cotton. It's going to be a nice summer top. And depending upon how much of the girls I want to show, I can wear it with or without a camisole underneath. So, I went ahead and made the sleeves. Instead of just 8 garter rows, I did 12 to make them a little longer. And my mattress stitch for the first time. It's lovely. I don't think you can even see. I learned how to do it in garter and stockinette. So the seam is about 1 inch down from the fold. You can kind of tell in the garter. But for a first time seaming, I think I did pretty good. It was like magic. It's like blocking lace when it goes from a lump of yarn to this beautiful, delicate creation. Mattress stitch, just zoop, invisible zipper right up the seam. Awesome. Gave it a little structure that it needed. Cotton is heavy. Like, this is a heavy garbage compared to, like a t-shirt or whatever, but it's done. I have a finished object. Yay! Now I can get on with some other knitting. I'm sorry if the camera just wiggled. It's because my dog is chasing sunbeams and just knocked the table. Willow, you're not going to catch a sunbeam. Sit. Good girl. I do have some other knitting in progress, but what I really want to talk about when I'm done with my whips is all the cast-ons I'm going to do. That's right, folks. Cast-onitis. Now that my must get finished for summer project is done, come out. Okay. This is my Atlantic Current socks. I'm doing them 2 at a time, which has kind of been awkward for turning the heel. So I turned one heel, turned the other heel. Did the heel flap, do the other heel flap. Well, actually, I'm like on the heel flap right now. So I've turned both heels, and I am just finishing up the first heel flap. Can you see where that heel pocket is? Nice. So it's been, oh, don't drop a stitch. So it's been kind of awkward trying to work on one with the other one there taking up cable space. This is my first heel turn and heel flap toe up of this construction. As I said, I like to try something new with every project, so I'm just going to keep trying new toes and new heels, new cast-ons and new bind-offs until, you know, I find what heel works best for me and what I like and what's easy, and then that'll be my go-to heel, my go-to toe. So, still working on these. This is a strictly on the couch in the evening with the light on, so I can see what the hell I'm doing while I read the pattern. Because like I said, it's the first time I've done it. Can't wait until I get the heel turn done, and then I'm just back into the regular sock pattern for the leg so I can take it on the road again. I do have my travel sock knitting, and I've gotten a couple more rows done on that, but it wasn't anything worth showing, bringing up to show, so I didn't. Oh yeah, sorry. And this is in Jinx yarn, the BFL sock in Ponyo #1 colorway. I would like to point out, or I would like to mention, Tour de Fleece finished. Yay! Yay. I don't know, I'm all excited. Yay! Somebody won. I don't even know who it was. I watched like 10 minutes of it, but I did do spinning. So I had 2 goals for the Tour de Fleece. The first was to finish chain plying my loop bat gradient, and that I did. It's still on my plying bobbin though, but let's see if I can show you. Autofocus. So I think I'm going to end up with a fingering weight if it doesn't bloom too much when I wash it. So obviously I've got to skein it up and wash it. And I don't know what the yarn is going to do then. I am going to do a simple soak, soft thwack, and hang. Spinners understand what that means. Basically, you can like just soak and hang your yarn. You can, you know, hold it and give it a couple thwacks on a hard surface. You can hang it and weight it. You can like seriously beat it up, and that's to do a couple things. It helps even out the ply, and if I'm understanding correctly, will also help it bloom / full a little. I don't want this fold, and I hope it doesn't bloom that much because I'd like to keep it a fingering weight. But my chain ply is done. First time I've chain plied. I think I mentioned before I felt like I needed another pair of hands. I don't know if it was the way I spun my single, if I needed to add more twist to it. I thought I had added enough, or what, but I had problems with my single breaking on me and having to reconnect it and start another loop. So I will not give up on chain plying, because I think you should do everything at least twice or 3, 2 or 3 times before forming an opinion. But I had a mediocre experience this time, so there's that. My second goal, sorry, I have hair in my face. My second goal with Tour de Fleece was to, on my spindle for Team Spindles, Team Spindlers, was to finish my thick and thin, and I did not accomplish that. I was not able to spend 15 minutes on my drop spindle every day. And some of that too was just overcoming in you. And some of that was, we had family in town, 2 weekends over Tour de Fleece. We traveled the first weekend. Okay, so we traveled the first weekend. We had family in town the next 2 weekends. And then this last weekend, we actually had family staying with us. So, had to clean house. Which needed done anyway. But obviously, it's, you know, one of those things that's hard to get done. So that is my on the needle knitting and spinning FOs and whips. What I want to cast on, though, I have cast on itis so bad. You have no idea how hard it has been to not ball up some yarn and just throw some needles together with it, because I want to knit all the things. I've been stocking patterns on Ravelry for shawls. Everybody's doing these beautiful, beautiful textured shawls. Blom from the Bee Mandarins podcast, Melody. Whispering Pines shawl, Candlelight, the Pebble Beach, now that she's got it out in 3 sizes. Everybody's working on one. I want to too. Must cast on all the things. But now that I have finished my crossover top, I can start a new project. Yay! I shouldn't really, but I'm going to. And I know I have another project. Sorry, get that off my lap. I have another project in the works right now. It's a Seraphine shawl that I'm doing for my mom. And that happens to coincide, or I can use it with, a cowl, which is a knit-along, that's taking place in August for any Jared Flood or Brooklyn Tweed, or I want to say the wool something. I will have it in the show notes. Yeah, a pattern by any one of those editions or designers, and my Seraphine falls into that. So pre-existing projects count, or existing projects count. So I'm going to do that and try and get that finished during that cowl for my mother. She would appreciate it. Yay. Maybe I can get her pair of socks finished too. Okay, now that I'm babbling, I do have some under the needle stuff to talk about too. So I told you that I'd finished the placemats for the lady at church, and I gave them to her last weekend. Well, the intervening 2 weeks, I have also finished the table runner that I made to go with the placemats. And this is kind of a modified log cabin block. This is half of it. It's doubled up. So, you can see I just straight line quilted it on my machine and then did the binding. And this is ready to go off to her next weekend again at church. And just one comment to say is she wanted blues, obviously, but backwards. The center block is red because that is supposed to be the hearth of the home. Log cabin, the hearth of the home, which the cabin is centered on. And so that's the traditional color for the center square. And so that's what I did. So now you know why. case you didn't know before. I am also working on, this is another workshop. I'm sorry, I could not find it. It's called Chains of Friendship, and I cannot remember the designer's name right now. It was a workshop I took through my quilt guild. I had it up on my design wall. This is totally scraps. This is just 2 rows sewn together. My other rows, the rows are done. I just need to finish stitching the rows together. I had it up on my design wall where I could organize the blocks where I wanted them, so I didn't have 2 pinks next to each other, or, you know, 2 things in the same pattern. And I could balance everything out. And that was nice, except for when I took it off the wall and stacked it up in front of my machine to stitch together, I flip-flopped a row. So it's one half, the first half is as I had it on the wall, and the other half is flip-flopped. So hopefully it still looks okay together because I'm not ripping out stitches and redoing it, because it's just a scrap wall hanging. It's gonna end up being finished about the size of a wall hanging. It's scrap pieces, and it was for working with half square triangles and new technique in them. And like I said, it's called Chains of Friendship. And one of my goals, one of my mini goals in life, is to finish up the projects that I've started in quilting workshops. I have other quilts in stages of progress that I've started on my own, but my goal is to first do those workshop quilts and get them done, because, for several reasons, because each workshop was to learn a new technique, and I'd like to remind myself of that technique and have that, so if necessary I can apply it to any of my other quilts. Yeah. So that's my thought process there. In addition, under the needle, I finished the back, which had to be pieced. I finished the backing of my Waves of Glory quilt, and I've got that in the top sent out to be quilted. So I just have that packed up and it's ready to send out. Let's see what else under the needles. I think that's it. Yes. As far as in the garden, the weeds have overtaken my yard. I am picking briars out of my dog. I do have two new flowers blooming in my garden. One is my blue blazes. I cannot remember the scientific name for it. I will have that in the show notes. But one is my blue blazes. It's actually a purple flower, but it looks really pretty. And the other is my anise hyssop. And that has red flowers, and it is just starting to bloom. And it has a lovely, I love black licorice. It has a lovely licorice smell, kind of like anise. And, oh, hence the anise hyssop. Duh. But I love the licorice smell when you run your fingers across the leaves. And that's blooming. I have one in my front yard and one in my backyard. And as I may or may not have mentioned before, one of my goals with my perennial garden is to have something continually blooming. So now that some of my penstemon is done blooming, I have the hyssop starting to bloom. My catmint will bloom all summer if I let it, I think. But so that I have something blooming in spring, summer, and fall. That's my goal. We're not there yet. We're still working on our perennial garden, both in the front and the backyard, and mainly getting rid of the weeds. But it's in progress. My hops look awesome. I have read up how to know when they are ready to harvest, and according to them, my centennial hops should not be ready till mid-August. I don't know, I think they're going to be ready sooner. So my goal is just to go and check them every week and just see how they're doing. And once they turn dry, papery, and yellow and have that lupulin smell, I can harvest. In the bee yard. I do have news. When we had family come to visit, I took them out to the bee yard. I think I've already mentioned the first visit that we did with the girls, who weren't scared at all. It was great. And the second visit with the cousins, their 2 kids did really good too. And actually, the youngest one, she wanted to keep eating honey straight from the hive. She wasn't scared of the bees at all. So it's a good thing, actually, to catch them before they've been stung and before they have that fear of the pain, so that they don't think, to be afraid. So that's good. I hope they had fun and made some good memories, and will appreciate where honey comes from now. Additionally, I went through Queen Fiona's hive, and I got stung twice, once on each hand, and it actually interfered with my knitting. I had to take my ring off because my hands swelled up so much. They were like the Michelin baby hands, all poofy, and so I was like, great. I forgot to take the Benadryl. So I had to take my ring off because it was my hands were too swollen. Yes, beekeepers get stung. This is my first time of the season so far. Why did I get stung? I was being careful. I did bump a frame and kind of agitated the bees a little, but I'm not sure if they're queen right. I thought I had the swarm cell Queen Fiona mated and laying, but going through it looks like a lot of the brood space is being filled with nectar. It doesn't look like royal jelly, it looks like nectar. It's shiny like nectar. And other than some capped brood, I didn't see any larvae this time. Eggs are hard to miss, so mostly I look for larvae. I didn't go through every frame. I looked at a couple frames in the top box and a couple frames in the bottom box. I don't know what's going on. The joys of being a beekeeper. So I'm letting them do their thing. The S&J hive is doing fine. It's got brood. The queen is good. They're making honey. I'm letting them do their thing, and as long as I can get one hive to overwinter, I'm going to be happy. So, do I want Queen Fiona's hive to die out? No. Will I be heartbroken? No. Should I be putting a frame of brood from the S&J hive into Queen Fiona's hive? Maybe. Probably. I'm just going to let them do their thing and see what happens. So, that's that. I do need to either rent the club extractor or get a homemade one made before the end of summer. It's the end of July. I want to do extraction while the weather's hot because it's a lot easier to spin that honey. So that's something I need to be thinking about and a goal to follow up on. And that's it for In the Bee Yard. As far as off topic, I think I've already mentioned quite a few things at the beginning of the podcast, so I won't cover those again. I would like to thank everybody for joining me again and coming back or finding me new, and I hope that you were interested and found it enjoyable and plan to watch again. I almost forgot one of the most important off the topic items. I have a Ravelry group now. Come join us at my High Plains Life podcast group on Ravelry. We've got an Introduce Yourself a thread, an Ask Me Anything thread, and anything you'd like to share on there. I would be more than excited to see our group grow. We've got 15, 20 members already, so I'm so excited. Get on there and introduce yourself. No lurking. Okay, you can lurk if you want to because I'm a lurker, but introduce yourself. I'd love to know who you are and get to know you again. As I mentioned, I am Danielle, and I can be found on Ravelry and Instagram as Danny Girl Colorado. Thanks, and have a good day.